Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Luke, your Twinflame doctor. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the roles of duality, what's also known as polarity. So for better definition, it's the feminine and the masculine aspects within the twin flame relationship. So first, what we have to understand is that the two different aspects obviously are masculine and feminine aspects. And I need you to understand that they're 100% just energy. They're not based on gender roles whatsoever. And first to start off is we need to understand that the feminine body is the emotional body, while the masculine is the mental body. So the feminine is the emotional or the heart-centered body, which you could say why they're always labeled emotional. And the masculine is the mental or the logical. But what we first have to understand is there's no such thing as logic, first off. That there's only the disconnect between the heart and the mind. So while women are also, you could say, emotional or they would be labeled irrational, which you're not, ladies, so that's not what I'm saying at all. But the men who are be called, buttheads or inappropriate words, a-hole, because they're all logical and they have no emotion, no heart. But with logical is it's our inability to really connect the past emotions to the decisions we're making right now. So a man may go buy something based off of, better quality, but they'll spend 3 times the price because the old tool they bought, let's say, they got hurt and it didn't make sense and they were screaming and yelling and had to go rebuy a new one anyways. That's the emotional connection to it. But they don't know that. They don't remember it. But with women, they typically remember that. And honestly, when we're living on one side or the other, we're both wrong. We can't live in masculinity and we can't live in femininity. The answer really lies in the polarity of being the balance and having that inner peace within. So in order to properly balance this polarity, we have to understand that the aspects that really come into slingshotting or chimpanzeeing to one side or the other is due to our identity or our ego, or better known as past wounds and trauma. And that ultimately these wounds are being triggered to help us come back into wholeness and to alchemize back into the love that we are. And that starts with the inner love of self. So it's understanding that the polarity of being on one side too masculine or all masculine and being on the other side all feminine and no masculine, it's this imbalance that is truly creating that separation between you two. So how do we even go about, sorting this through depending whether you're the masculine or the feminine, or if you're too much in your emotions or you're too much just cut off or cold and you could say dead? Well, the answer really is it starts within the emotional body, because what we have to understand first is that we are all emotions. There's nothing within this world that does not evoke an emotion, because that's how we make our decisions. So it really comes into the emotional regulation aspect within ourselves to help us balance this polarity aspect. And within my program, Relationship Restoration, we really focus and use what's called polyvagal theory, which is the focus on the vagus nerve. And what the vagus nerve actually tells us is that 80% of the neurons go from the body back up to the brain and 20% from the brain back down to the body. So again, what does that tell us? It tells us that we are 80% body, or you could say even 100% body, and that the brain is only reinforcing what we're already emotionally feeling. So the answer to this duality, or to polarizing the enemy and really finding this inner peace, is by finding and healing our emotional wounds within. What is it that's lacking within you that you feel like you have to have or can't live without your twin flame? Because while you are in this state of separation, you can't be in a state of union. Because again, you're creating that duality. If we're not together, we are separate. So you're creating that separate consciousness between the two. And that you have to see yourself as one. That again, separation is preparation. It's preparation for your union because you were able to grow. And you may ask, well, why can't we grow together? Well, if that was possible, the universe would allow that to continue to happen. But sometimes our souls want to evolve. They want to grow. So what happens are the same patterns or the same feedback loops keep getting repeated and repeated. And if we're not learning them, each time they keep getting a little bit more severe and they get a little bit bigger to where until you finally learn that lesson, it's not going to go away. And it's ultimately sometimes this is what creates that separation between you two. Because again, you've had so many chances to heal it and to focus on it within your relationship that now it's time for you to take a break so you can wholly and fully focus on yourself for your inner union. And this is why they always tell you it's so vital that you don't focus on your twin flame, because you two are the same consciousness. And it's this constant push-pull, push-pull, push-pull. And you're going to feel it energetically within your brain, within your mind, within your heart. And ultimately, it's bringing you back down to center. And that's why meditation is actually so effective with helping you bring yourself back to even be able to emotionally regulate. So let me repeat that. Meditation is so effective, not because it heals you, but it gives you the ability emotionally to be regulated and start to actually process the wounds that are within you. That it's through this processing of our trauma, of our wounds, where the abandonment wounds or feeling unloved, or what we like to have these labels of like avoidant whatever. It's no. anyone that has any of these stupid labels of these love languages and these dismissive avoidant, no, it's all a emotional dysregulation and emotional imbalance. That if they're running for something or what are these stupid labels we want to put on, they're not who any of us are. They are a mere tiny aspect. And just like with anything in life, if you go to one side or the other two drastically, it's going to tip it over. And you can't have too much of a good thing, or one thing is not good. You can literally drink yourself to death from water. Think of that one. We are 70 to 90% water, and you can drink yourself to death from water. So that's something so small should really point out to you have to heal every part of you. Every time you've ever felt this lack or this scarcity mindset or like you are not whole, you've got to address and really interconnect all of these. And that's again where in my program, our first step is creating that self-awareness within ourselves to be able to identify what our wounds are, what our trauma is, and then we can create the emotional safety within ourselves to start to feel our emotions, start to express our emotions. And ultimately, it's the emotional safety within your relationship that made this breakdown anyways. It's the lack of emotional safety to, be able to communicate, to be able to voice, physical, sexual communication, expression of anything. It's literally anything and everything goes back to the foundation of emotional safety. How safe do I feel? So that's why such a vital part of this journey is the inner union. And you could really say that, 80 to 90% of this entire journey is just the inner union. But again, it's having the proper tools, the proper steps, and understanding how to walk yourself through this. So again, we have within my program, Relationship Restoration, it's self-awareness, healing, clarity, independence or self-love, and then the fifth one is integrating our new self. And then at the same time, we have this concept of relationships that each one has a pair. So these are a pair. It's a 5-step tier system that you can't have one without the other, and it has to go in sequence. So with the self-awareness comes that emotional safety. And then with the healing comes the psychological safety. And with the clarity comes the mutual admiration. And then with the independence or self-love comes that goal alignment where you two are able to really come together and plan that future together. And then with the integration of new self, that's when we really start to ignite this natural sexual passion between the two of you. That ultimately, I know we live in a crazy busy world that they say make time and schedule time for intimacy. I mean, as great as that is, but let's be honest, having it scheduled really doesn't bring back that spark of love and that deep connection that you guys have. It feels more like a chore or a duty, especially if it's something that has been an issue between your relationship. That really the key to, alchemizing this pain and transmuting it into growth is by really being able to have that soul recognition and that balance within yourself, to balance our feelings, to balance our emotions, to understand our illusions and our distortions and get ourselves out of this victim mindset. That instead of why did this happen to me, why did this happen for me? Because again, these patterns are repeating because you're not able to recognize what are you supposed to learn. And it's not to say that maybe learning just means to take a step back and not be so forceful and be so judgmental. And what often happens again with the masculine and the feminine is we want to again label them. Like typically the feminine is labeled the chaser and the masculine is labeled the runner, because generally speaking, the masculine energy has a lot less, you could say, emotional connection to where they're able to disconnect and you say leave a connection. And ultimately, pulling that tether or that string of the feminine, chasing like, I'm sorry, I recognize my mistakes. But the real answer again is that same masculine, whether they started out as the feminine, you could say in the relationship, they were more emotional and now they're cold and shut off. It is you both had to understand both sides in order to become whole within yourselves and within your relationship. So in some instances, separation could not be stopped. That you had to understand, again, the polarity of both sides to understand how your other is feeling. Because again, within twin flame relationships, they mirror your psychological wounds to where their strengths are your weaknesses. So what did you fall in love with them for? What are their strengths? You have to start to embody those. And we have to be able to communicate those and communicate about our weaknesses with our twin flame. And this is the essence that really is going to start to break down those barriers. But it's important and absolutely vital that you have the right steps and the right processes to truly understand what is it you're getting yourself into. So within my relationship restoration program, we break down and go into your gene keys, your human design, and I personally walk through you step by step. What is it that you need to overcome within your shadows, within multiple realms? So within your sphere of love, prosperity, your activation in your pearl sequence, what is it that in each one of these steps you have to evolve and transmute the shadow in order to proceed onto the next step? And ultimately, what are the latent gifts that it's going to inherently unlock within you? Because when we're able to actually understand ourselves a little bit better, we're able to have compassion and empathy for our twin flame. That ultimately we'll also walk through their genetic code and through their gene key and their human design to help you understand why maybe they are doing the things they do. What is it that are their shadows that they have to walk through? And it's not, let me be clear, you cannot and will not heal them of these. That this is something they have to do alone. Because again, this is the purpose of the soul growth. That ultimately you two split into two separate bodies to have two separate human experiences. And it's being able to transmute these differences to create this ultimate alchemy of love with here and create that heaven on earth that we all so just desperately deserve and want. So again, a quick recap is the feminine and the masculine aspect is all energy. And ultimately we both have each of them. That what happens when we're in separation is one of us is purely emotional, living from the heart, and the other one is purely just logical, living from the brain. That ultimately that it comes back to the reintegration of the energies back to ourselves through recognizing our wounds and healing them and transmuting our shadows to unlock our divine gifts. So if you'd like to learn more about this process and how I can almost guarantee your twin flame union, then please click the link below in the description and schedule a consultation today. And if you like today's video, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and leave some questions in the comments on some future video ideas if you'd like. And that's all I have for today's video, and I'll see you all in the next one.